Yo, what up, and welcome inside the opening line, broadcasting from the Elite Fantasy Studios.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Corey Paulson and Benny Ricciardi coming to you on a Friday after the first night of the NFL draft. Benny, how's everything? How's your evening, brother?
It was a little weird, to be honest with you. I fell asleep kind of early. I actually missed the basketball game. And then I woke up at about 2 o'clock in the morning and was wide awake after taking like a 5 or 6 hour nap. So I basically spent all morning, because I haven't been asleep. I woke up at 2 o'clock. I've been awake ever since. So I've just been sitting here watching a lot of videos, including a lot of Daniel Jones videos. I was trying to find that 3-series sample size that Dave Gettleman was talking about. That was the reason why he fell in love with them. I got to be honest. I watched a lot of tape on him. I didn't see that 3-series sample size. But I don't think – listen, let me just say it this way. Do I think it was a good pick? No. Do I think it was the right thing they should have done with the number 6 overall pick? No, not at all. But it's not like the kid sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the kid does have talent. Was he the best pick for them? Absolutely not. But he does have talent, and it sucks for him because getting drafted is like one of the biggest moments in an athlete's career, right?
Yep.
And you want to go somewhere where, like, you know, everybody's happy you're coming there. They're excited to see you.
Hearing your name.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this guy got booed. He is getting, like, kind of dragged in the papers and, like, oh, how could they pick this kid? This kid sucks. Like, this whole situation sucks for him because, it's not the kid's fault that they arguably made the wrong pick by taking him instead of a couple guys who probably project better. But at the same point in time, like, this is the biggest moment in this kid's life. And he wakes up this morning and every newspaper in the New York area is like, Gettleman screws it. Daniel Jones was a reach. Like, and it's not really fair to him. So I hope the kid does turn out to be a pretty good quarterback in that case. But I will blast the hell out of the Giants and Gettleman for this pick when we get to that later in the show.
Yes, we will be getting to that a little bit later on in the program. The New York Giants, obviously the big story. Let me tell you something. On NFL draft night, if your team is trending for 5 hours on the night of the NFL draft, that's normally a bad sign. When you're the number one Giants for the number one trend for about 6 hours on Twitter last night, when that's night of the NFL draft, it's normally not a good thing when that happens. But I think we got to start off with this piece of shit in Kansas City, Tyreek Hill. Now, this don't make no damn sense. You know what I'm saying, Benny? Like, the audio comes out yesterday of I guess the girlfriend set him up and taped him, whatever, the child's mother, more or less putting fear into his 3-year-old son. Listen, you're a professional football player, right? So your son looks at you as a hero. Instead, he's terrified of you. You know what I'm saying? Tyreek Hill is a disgusting human being. I don't think he ever plays another down in the NFL again, Benny. The abuse, the child abuse, the actual audacity and the gall. When the mother says that he's terrified of you, he shoots back and says, "You should be terrified of me too, bitch." And I'm just like, yo, what the hell is wrong with Tyreek Hill, B?
Well, not for nothing, but he had something coming to the league when this happened. So this isn't like a first instance with him. It's not like, the teams didn't know about this when they drafted him. Again, you got to be able to split the talent of the guy with what he's doing here, because this guy is an amazing football talent, right? I mean, he's a burner. He can score. He can, he can do a lot of things with the ball in his hands on the football field. But there is a point where the guy is just such an asshole in real life that you just got to kind of be like, we can't put up with this stuff. Here's my thing, Corey. Again, not saying that what Kareem Hunt did was right either. But in these two situations, when it involves a child, I think that's even worse. And maybe that's just the dad in me speaking. But, like, you smack around some 18-year-old, chick at a hotel, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But you're both adults, and there's probably a lot more to that.
Yeah.
3-year-old child, man, like, you don't do that to a kid. And then you don't go ahead and talk that way to the child's mother either. You know what I'm saying? So there's just a lot of things about this that I don't like. And the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs haven't cut him already after what they did with Kareem Hunt, to me, it's a little bit hypocritical, because if that's the stance you're taking with Hunt, then you got to take the same stance here with Hill. This is not something that, I would be okay with.
I think they're going to find a way to listen. He's not going to. I don't think he plays again. I think it's too much for Tyreek Hill right now. That audio was very disturbing. Obviously, you saw what happened with Ray Rice. When it's a tape out there, when stuff like that happens with Kareem Hunt, listen, that Kareem Hunt thing took a lot of different twists and turns with a lot of different stories. Nobody was criminally charged in that one right there. But like I said, it's controversial when you're getting stuff like that with that Kareem Hunt thing, but totally different from what we have right here. Like, Brittany, both of us as parents, like a 3-year-old, like when, like on the tape, she was like, well, why does he keep saying daddy did it? Daddy did it. He replied, he said that daddy did a lot of things. Let me tell you something. A 3-year-old will say it's a boogeyman in the closet. A 3-year-old will say, it's a monster under the bed. You know, a 3-year-old may say like, oh yeah, I did flush the toilet, something like that. A 3-year-old is not going to lie about you breaking their arm.
No, I mean, listen, my son right now is 3 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I still have to help him wipe his butt. I still have to put the straw into his Capri Sun for him to drink. Yeah. Like, a 3-year-old child is, I'm not going to say incapable of lying, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not, 3-year-old children are not going to make up stories. They're not vindictive. They don't even have that thought process in their mind yet. If he says something, he's saying the truth, you know? That's pretty much, like my 3-year-old calls my wife fat every once in a while. Like, you know, have you seen my wife? Like, my wife is, you know, not fat at all. But, like, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, 3-year-olds don't lie. They're not making stuff up. They're not BSing. They're not, you know. Like I said, this whole situation is tough for me as a father because I have a 3-year-old. Like, you know, at most, Corey, I might smack him on the butt. Yeah. And I'm not talking even like a full-up smack. I'm talking like a little, hey, get your attention, like, hey, that's not okay. You hit your brother or, you know, you threw something when you're not supposed to. And that's about the furthest I would go. So I couldn't even imagine hitting a 3-year-old child nonetheless so hard that you break his arm.
Yeah, punching him in the chest. Listen, you're not another kid you're not another man punching him in the chest. You're a professional football player punching him in the chest. Obviously, Tyreek Hill with the domestic violence issues in the past. The Kansas City Chiefs, listen, I don't want to blame them organizationally, but I do think that you see some type of parallel with some of the players they bring in, some of the risks they take with these guys and what they're willing to do. They were quick to get rid of Hunt. They just made the trade this week bringing in Clark. So it seems like they have a problem organizationally with that. Obviously, Andy Reid is having a little bit of, he's trying to win the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? He got Super Bowl fever.
Now, again, I mean, I'm not going to argue with it. Like, I have no problem with the team taking these chances, right? Like, a lot of these chances have worked out for teams in the past, especially when you get a guy who's slipping, right? You get a guy who's slipping because of something like this in his past, and he winds up being a good person and turning it around. My thing with these guys, and they did it with Kareem Hunt, which was something that, you know, I was happy to see that they did, is if you're taking one of these guys, you know that they're starting off with a strike already, right?
Yep.
So if they have that second strike, they don't get as much rope as somebody else who didn't have that strike coming in here. And when you see a pattern of something, that's when I start getting a little worried. This is a guy who had a domestic violence thing before he came into the NFL.
Pregnant girlfriend.
Yeah. Oh, was that it? He hit his pregnant girlfriend?
Pregnant girlfriend.
Was this the same one? Is this the same mother?
I doubt it.
And again, I mean, whatever. That is what it is. That's a whole different situation. But, you know, this is now the second time you have, you know, like you said, a grown man NFL player hitting a wife, a kid, a pregnant girlfriend. Like, you know, this is something that's tough for me to be like, hey, we got to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. When you have multiple instances like this, you know, it kind of goes more to your character than anything else.
But by close of business today, a weekend news dump, it'll come out that Tyreek Hill has been released, and I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL was to react swiftly. Obviously, Roger Goodell, they'll do their due diligence, wait for investigation to come out. But I think we've seen the last of Tyreek Hill. I think we've also heard the end of the talk of Pat Mahomes being a first-round fantasy quarterback. It's going to be a little bit tough for him to rebound after that. And I hate for him to go from something so serious to talk about fantasy football with it, but, you know, it's kind of what we do. But, you know, we still got time to talk about that. But, you know, it was interesting listening to the audio, and she was like, you know, she's terrified of you. He's terrified of you. I rode for you. I lied for you to CPS. I lied for you to that detective, and now you're going to lose your shit. You know what I'm saying? And she was talking true, and it's 100% correct. Now he's going to lose his shit. And I found it interesting to be like, see, he never denied, Benny. The first thing he said is, well, what did you do? Then he said a lot of things about me. You know what I mean? He never was like, oh, I didn't do that.
Again, he's a 3-year-old kid, man.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
to me, that's the beginning and the end of this whole thing. He's a 3-year-old kid. Like, you're not talking about like an 18-year-old son who doesn't get along with you and snitched on you or something like that. Like, this is a 3-year-old kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a whole different set of rules when you talk. Your job as a father is to care for this kid.
Yeah.
He's 3 years old. He can't care for himself. And to be, I don't know. I can't, like I said, this is something that kind of hits home for me, and I just have no love for anybody who's going to be mean to a child that, is in your care.
No doubt. I agree with you 100% on that one. So we dismissed Tyreek Hill. He is gone. He's out of the scenario. He'll be out of the NFL. Now let's get to some of the nuts and bolts from last night, and we got to start right here locally. Listen. I knew they weren't going to do it. You know what I'm saying? And they set us up with Gil. They ran Gil Brandt, 90-year-old ass out there to talk him up. Then they had Cutcliffe coming up talking about, he reminds me of Peyton Manning. And the thing about it is they sat right there with the 6th pick in the draft. They took a dude that they could have gotten 17 overall in Daniel Jones, Benny 5-10 in ACC play, 5 wins, 10 losses against the best his competition he plays against with a 54% completion percentage. This guy just went 6 in the draft with Dwayne Haskins on the board.
All right, so there's a lot of things I want to say here, right? So let's get to them one by one. One, without a doubt, after watching some of the tape last night and watching some of the Haskins tape last night, Haskins was the better prospect. And the thing is, Haskins is the perfect guy to compare him to because they have the same game. These are two guys that are pocket passers that aren't going to pick up a whole bunch of stuff outside the pocket. Peyton Manning, like the one guy whose game film I was watching yesterday actually compared Jones to Eli Manning. So he's a poor man's Eli Manning. So I don't know how Giant fans are supposed to feel about that because you basically just drafted the same guy you have. So if you didn't love the Eli Manning era, if Gettleman's right and this works out, you're going to have another 15 years of basically a quote-unquote Eli Manning clone, which is what this kid is. The competition he played against was not better than the competition Haskins played. The numbers he put up were not better than the numbers Haskins put up. Yes, you could say, Haskins had better players around him, which I'll agree with, but he also played against better competition and did a lot more with it. To me, there's no way you can tell me that he was the better quarterback prospect over Haskins. So that's number one. Now, the second thing with this is, if you really like this kid Jones, like you said, you could have had him at 17. So really what this says to me is that Gettleman didn't know the board and didn't understand the prospects that were out there and the way other teams were reviewing the guys that were there. Because remember, Haskins fell to 15 to the Redskins. Yeah. So really, you only had one pick to wait before you could have gotten this guy at 17 if you really liked him. And from all accounts and everything I'm hearing, everybody thought he was an end of the first round, second round, maybe even third round kind of quarterback anyway.
He definitely could have been a third day guy.
Yeah, and that's the problem. The problem is, your job as a GM, it's like, well, we got our guy. That's fine. You got your guy. But you picked a defensive tackle at 17, a nose tackle that a lot of people thought you could have got in the beginning of the second round with with the pick you have in the second round. So you could have had one of the premier defensive players at number 6. Now,
you could have had a Josh Allen, Ed Oliver at 16, and they came back and got your quarterback at 17.
What I was going to say is Ed Oliver was the guy who I was going to get into because that's, you're looking D tackle. That's the other D tackle guy that you're there. I know everybody loves Josh Allen, and Josh Allen has a specific skill set. I'm not sure if that's what the Giants were really looking for. Like, Allen could rush the passer from the edge, and he can drop into pass coverage. He's not very good at stopping the run, which is something that the Giants had said they wanted to do, which is why I understand taking the D tackle in that spot. But like I said, you could have had Oliver, who's arguably the second or third best D tackle in this entire draft.
Might be the second or third best player in this draft.
Yeah, and you could have had him at 6. And then, like you said, you still could have got that quarterback. If Jones was your guy, you could have got Jones at 17. And that's the bigger problem that I have here for me. Like I said, I don't want to knock Jones. Jones is a decent prospect. Like, people are acting like the guy sucks. Like, again, I think Haskins is better. I would have rather seen them pick Haskins. I don't think
that Jones sucks. It's that Gettleman sucks.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like, I don't want people knocking Jones. The kid did exactly what he had to do. He went out there. Somebody believed in him, and he got drafted. And I hope it works out for him for his sake. But for the GM's sake and for Giant fans' sake, your GM not only reached on a player that he could have had later on in the draft, which means, one, he's not very good at evaluating talent, and two, he's not very good at his job as a GM of understanding the board. Because the idea, he talked about, well, we got what we thought was the best value and blah, blah, blah. No, that's bullshit. Because the best value is taking a guy where he's supposed to be drafted or closer to where he's going to be drafted. You were the only one in the league that would have taken Daniel Jones at number 6.
They basically get him and said, listen, he may not have been there at 17. No, he was going to be there at 17. He was probably would have been there tonight. You know what I'm saying?
That's my argument too. Is
And then the other thing that they do, and then he comes out. So this was your guy, your can't miss prospect. You pick him at 6, right? But then you say he could sit for 3 years. You don't pick somebody 6 and sit him for 3 years.
That's the thing that really has me going here. It's like, honestly, the pick was bad enough. But if you watch the interview afterwards, not only did he say he could sit for 3 years, but the reason he could sit for 3 years is because they think Eli Manning still has 3 years. They think there's still 3 years of Eli Manning quarterbacking this team and that it's going to win, that they're going to win with Eli Manning for 3 years. And like you said, if that's the case, if you think Eli has 3 more years, then why are you even drafting a quarterback in the first round anyway?
That's 6.
Yeah, why are you even doing that? Go get Eli a wide receiver. Go get some help on defense.
That's a major issue for them.
Again, to me, the major issue for them is the GM. Here's how bad this pick was. Even Mike Francesa agrees with us that this was a bad pick.
And when I saw Mike Francesa tweet that the New York Giants, that first round showed the New York Giants are clueless, I was like, oh boy, the Giants in big trouble. You know what I'm saying?
That's how bad it is. When even Mike Francesa is like, no, you guys screwed this up. Wow.
When clone for the organization, the sports pope Mike Francesa says it's screwed up for the New York Giants, then you definitely know it is. I think what else we're looking at with this pick right here is not only do you make the bad pick, the bad selection, get the worst value probably in recent memory for the NFL draft, the kid that you passed on is now in your division, and he's already thinking they didn't draft me because I'm black. That's what Haskins is thinking. That's exactly what whether it's true or not, that's what Haskins is thinking, and that's how he's going to approach it whenever he plays the Giants.
And you know what the thing is? You can't even really argue with him because when you look at the two guys side by side, like I said, I was watching the film. I couldn't sleep last night, so not by choice. I wasn't up at 3 o'clock watching film by choice.
You're a Jet fan. You should have rested easy last night.
I love the Quinn and Williams thing. That's what I'm saying. This is new territory for me, Corey, where the Jets are making the right moves and the Giants are doing the dumb shit that everyone has to talk about for an hour because it just doesn't make any sense.
I tweeted last night, even the Mets are looking at the Giants like, damn. The Mets organization is like, the Giants really taking off us.
James Dolan needs to send the Maras a gift basket for taking all the back page heat off of him with the Knicks right now, too.
Can you imagine? I'm telling you, a Duke. If you draft a Duke player in the first round in New York, you wanted Zion to the Knicks. You did not want Daniel Jones to the Giants.
No, I'm saying
fans would rather have Zion right now probably than Daniel Jones.
Zion could probably be a pretty good tight end in the NFL. I'm not gonna lie. He's got that body. He knows how to use his body. He's got the size, the speed. He probably would. He
probably would have been a great defensive end.
I mean, listen. I watched the tape on Jones. The kid's got a pretty good arm. He's not. I don't want people to think that this guy sucks. Like, he's not a bad quarterback. But when you watch the tape on him versus the tape on Haskins, like it's kind of not close. You know what I mean? Like they're the same. They're the same type guy. So it's not even like you're saying, oh, well, we needed a guy that could scramble, or like if you told me Murray versus Haskins, I could see how depending on what kind of system you're running, you fall on one side or the other. Because Haskins is a legit I think a good description of him is he's a better Byron Leftwich. Like, he's a pocket quarterback. He's not going to be running around. He's not going to be creating plays or anything like that. Like, this is a guy that's going to drop. If the rush is coming, he's going to step up. He's going to take the hit. He's going to make the throw. But he's not going to rush for 100 yards a game. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not even he's not even like Murray, who was drafted in this pick, who can get out and kind of make things happen with his legs. Like, this guy's a pure pocket passer, which is the same thing that Jones is. And he's just flat out better than Jones. Like, he made better reads. He made better throws. He's got a better arm. He's got a better – I mean, both of these guys are, big and strong. Like, they both got, NFL –
and the young men are still developing. Listen, there's a couple of takes the way I look at it when you break down these two players right here. First of all, peep this. The New York Giants have drafted the Senior Bowl
I
MVP
saw that.
3 years in a row. So Daniel Jones, Kyle Lauletta, Davis Webb.
Yep.
Do you know who the Senior Bowl MVP was the year the Giants didn't draft him?
Yeah, your boy Dak.
It was Dak Prescott. I know the Giants got we just missed him again. You know what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing, and like I told you yesterday, I'm not a talent scout. I'm not sitting up here rewinding tape. I'm not, Joe Lisi or one of these guys like that. I watch a lot of college football, though. And one quarterback scored 62 points on Michigan. Michigan had two defensive players on that team that Haskins put 62 points on, went in the top 12 picks of the draft.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even just that game, though. I mean, he set the Big Ten record. Like, not like the Ohio State record or not like the
Big Ten. Yeah.
The Big Ten. Like, the Big Ten, like, for years and years and years record for passing touchdowns last year. Like, Ohio State, which is a team that always kind of pounds the run a little bit, at least, in recent years.
Ezekiel Elliott, Carlos Hyde,
Yeah.
The list goes on and on.
They changed pretty much their entire system a little bit last year to accommodate this kid because they thought he was that good. Like, he's only really been a quarterback, or at least at that level, at a big-time level, for a couple years. So he's still somebody who can improve too. And, God, think about that. Like, he threw 50 touchdowns, played, big-time football, played against a lot of good teams and put up big numbers. And you took a kid from Duke over him who didn't even have – like, again, if you switched their numbers, it would still be a question where I'd say it's 50-50. But it's not like Jones had 50 touchdowns and threw for 4,500 yards at Duke. And you could say, oh, well, they played, he didn't have as good a team, but they also played worse competition. So
they played their out-of-conference schedule is one of the worst out-of-conference schedules in the country. Inside the conference, they play Clemson, and they play Clemson, obviously, which is an NFL team, and Clemson beats the snot out of them. They play who else? They play Clemson, and really they play Clemson and Florida State. That's NFL teams that have NFL talent.
Yeah, you played two tough games all year. I mean, listen, here's the thing. Like, again, I know we've been picking on the Giants for months right now, and as a Jet fan and a Cowboys fan, people are like, you guys are just biased. You guys are just biased. But we're not. Like, this is –
Giants fans feel the same way as us.
That's what I'm saying. My brother's a Giants fan, and he even was like, I don't know what they're doing right now. And the thing is, like, none of the three guys that they drafted are really bad players, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Jones is a guy who most people thought should be drafted in the first 2 or 3 rounds.
Project quarterback.
They just took him way too early. Mm-hmm. The big tackle that they got in the middle of the first round is another guy that a lot of people had as a top 50 prospect. But they had him as more like a 40 to 50 prospect. Like a guy,
not 40.
The top of the second round, you could still get that guy. The cornerback that they drafted is one of the top 5 cornerbacks in this draft, a guy that a lot of people thought would go in the first, second, or third rounds. The problem is he wasn't the best cornerback. So really what Gettleman did here in 3 different situations is say every single talent scout that looked at all these guys was wrong, and I'm right. I think that the 4th best quarterback or the 3rd best quarterback in this draft is really the 2nd best quarterback, and we're happy that we got him. I think that arguably 6th or 7th best defensive tackle is the 4th best defensive tackle, so that's why we took him. And I'm arguing that maybe the 3rd or 4th best cornerback is the number 1 cornerback in this draft, and that's why we took him. And that's fine if you really believe in those 3 players.
Yeah.
But as a Giants fan, the thing that I'd be upset about is my GM doesn't understand how the draft works, because we could have gotten all 3 of those guys later than he went up to get them, meaning that we gave up value somewhere else. So did he get the guys that he quote-unquote targeted? Absolutely. Did he pay the right price for those guys? Absolutely not, and that's the problem.
There you go right there. The quarterback hits to all be forgotten about, but it's going to be tough. Moving right along, talk about some of the other stuff that went down yesterday. We discussed the situation with the not really the situation, but DC. DC comes across Montez Sweat. They bring in Dwayne Haskins. The thing about it is you're paying Haskins with a guy that can coach quarterbacks in Gruden. Say what you want to say about that DC franchise. Gruden has been there a while now. He's earned the trust of Daniel Snyder. He can coach quarterbacks. He got Kirk Cousins that big contract. He knows what he's doing when he gets a young quarterback. Colt McCoy still in the picture also, not to mention they went out and signed Case Keenum. But my guess is, especially a kid that's from 30 minutes from FedEx Field, the fan base, especially D.C., Chocolate City, they're going to be clamoring for Haskins to start from day one, and I think he's going to get every opportunity.
So how much of a better situation can this kid be in, right? Like, if anything, I would be sending –
amazing.
I'd be sending a gift basket to the Giants saying thank you for being idiots, because you put me in a place where I actually have a chance to make it to Canton now. Like you said, Gruden, great quarterback coach. You got Alex Smith, who's a great quarterback mind, who's, because of his leg, is going to be in there to kind of mentor this kid. You got Case Keenum, who, say what you want about guys like Case Keenum and Colt McCoy, really. But these are guys that are backups that have been around the league for 7 to 10 years that can teach this kid what he needs to know. So whether he starts right away or not, that's a hell of a good quarterback room to put him in, with a good quarterback coach, with a whole bunch of other guys that are, guys that have been around the league that know the ins and outs of the position. Again, really, really good spot for him in there. The media is going to be a lot friendlier to him than the media in New York would have been. So, he doesn't have to deal with the whole Eli Manning successor BS stuff. So I think it was a great spot for Haskins to land, and I'm looking forward to him. Plus, you got a running back in Darius Geis who's going to be coming back this year. So they got some weapons.
On the outside is still troublesome because Crowder's gone now, right?
Well, they lost Crowder, and they lost
I'm sorry, but who's Crowder playing? Did Crowder go to the Jets?
Yeah, baby. Come on now.
Right. Crowder went to the Jets. I love Jamison Crowder.
I'm trying to think who they got left. I don't even know.
They got Dotson, right?
Yeah, Dotson's still there. Okay,
but he hasn't done anything.
He hasn't really blossomed. Although I think this is his third year, right? Third year's the year for wide receivers to step forward. So we'll see what happens.
Might be his fourth year, either his third or fourth season.
All right. Well, you know what?
He stayed banged up. They got to get some. They got to build that. They got to build the outsides up for him a little bit more. But they can get that done.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Reed, I think, is still there. He's a guy that can still catch passes. Whether he stays healthy or not, whatever. But you got some weapons, and you got a good offensive mind there at coach. So I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think DC is a team that really made a big splash coming out this NFL draft right here. I like the Dexter Lawrence pick. Listen, people say you could have got him later. That is true. He's not a pass rusher. He's a run stopper, and there's no shame in being a run stopper. Noah Fant, the tight end, goes to the Denver Broncos. I think he's the second tight end taken in this draft. Noah Fant. Here's the thing. I am not going to touch a rookie tight end as far as fantasy goes, Benny, because they just don't hit.
No, it's true. And he was actually, not only was he the second tight end, he was the second tight end from his college team, which is the first time that happened.
It's wild.
So, yeah, both of the tight ends that got drafted in the first round are the two Iowa guys. The first guy was it TJ Hawkinson or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He's supposedly the more well-rounded of the two. Like, he can catch, and he's also a better blocker. Fant is more of the, receiving tight end option. So, I don't know. I mean, again, we see tight ends get drafted in the first round all the time that are rookies, and I don't remember one that's really, stepped forward and kind of broke out. I mean, who was the guy last year from Baltimore that people were talking about? And
they don't hit. Like, the elite type talents hit. Guys like Jeremy Shockey, guys like,
Shockey might have been – yeah, I was going to say, as far as, rookie guys go, Shockey might have been the last one that made a major impact as a rookie.
What would you say about the rookie season of the boy that played for the Giants? Why does everybody name
Evan Ingram? Yeah, I mean, part of it was that he was hurt a little bit, but he was okay. I mean, again, at best with the rookie tight end, you're hoping that the guy ends up as a tight end 6 to tight end 8, right? You're not getting he's not going to be better than the Travis Kelce's or the Zach Ertz of the world. I don't see a rookie stepping up and doing that well. Maybe, again, if one of these guys does, that's great, and I'll take them in their second or third season, but I'm not taking that chance on a rookie.
I agree with you on that one. The next skill position player to go off the board, as far as what we look about when we talk fantasy, Josh Jacobs, running back from Alabama, goes to the Oakland Raiders. Josh Jacobs is projected to be a Marshawn Lynch type back, so he goes into a spot where he'll be more than likely replacing Marshawn Lynch. They still got a lot of moving pieces in that backfield, Benny, but I think that this is probably going to be the first rookie running back we'll see go off draft boards. I don't know if he's a first rounder like Zeke was or like Saquon was, though, when it comes to draft day. We'll have to see how the offseason develops for him and read some of the tea leaves. It's still Oakland, which is shaping up to be a wild organization.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, he's, from all accounts, he was the best running back of the guys that were available. But from all accounts, this was also one of the weakest drafts for running backs. So I mean, he is what he is. I don't think he's going to be like a, every down 25 touch back right out of the gate in Oakland. Maybe that's what he turns into eventually. But I mean, at best this year, you're probably looking at him being a change of pace kind of guy, a lot like a Jalen Richard was for them in the last couple of years. Like, you're going to get 10 to 15 touches at best case scenario out of him. So for fantasy, I mean, again, running backs are always important. And if a couple guys get hurt, maybe he gets a big role, but he's a handcuff. He's not somebody I'm taking in the first 4 rounds.
Well, here's the thing with it. One thing I will say about Jalen Richard, last year, at one point last year, Jalen Richard had a 29% target share.
Yeah, well, again, in PPR, he's a great – I used him in DraftKings a lot because he would have some of those games where he'd see 10 or 12 targets and come away with 6 or 7 catches. Again, at min price, if you're doing that and getting 50, 60 yards with touchdown chances, you got some upside. But I feel like that's going to be the kind of same role as Jacobs. There's not going to be one guy in Oakland that gets the bulk of the touches. It's going to kind of be spread around to a bunch of guys. So for fantasy purposes, which is what we're talking about, Jacobs will be okay, but he'll really need injuries to slide into that kind of role where he has massive upside as a rookie.
Speaking of massive upside, Marquise Brown is a player that has massive talent. Massive talent leads to massive upsides. Marquise Brown goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Massive anything is going out the window now because if you're Marquise Brown, you got to be saying to yourself, please do not – it's 2 teams I wouldn't want to go to if I was Marquise Brown. I wouldn't want to go to the Raiders because I don't want to play with my uncle, and I wouldn't want to go to the Baltimore Ravens because I don't want a quarterback who's going to run for 100 yards that can't throw the football, not to mention the fact the Baltimore Ravens is the place where wide receivers go to die. Marquise Brown ends up in Baltimore, and I'm just like, that was the fantasy wide receiver to have, in my opinion, right there. And now he's in Baltimore. I don't want no parts of him.
Well, I mean, you basically said everything that I would have said there, and I absolutely agree with you. I mean, you look at the guys that they had last year at wide receiver, you can't put up big games for fantasy or even kind of break out and show that you're a star when you're only seeing 6 or 7 targets a game at most, which is what guys like Willie Snead in the slot last year had, which is where like Brown kind of – I mean, again, the guy's only about $170 soaking wet, so he kind of projects to be more of an inside slot receiver kind of guy than – or a guy that they're sending on long plays. He does have some speed, on the outside. But, yeah, I mean, you got put into a run-first offense, so you're not going to put up the kind of numbers that, are going to be eye-popping numbers. But, again, rookie wide receivers is another group that I'm normally not very high on or looking to draft as highly as other people are because they take a couple years to work out too, especially a guy that's not like a physical freak. Like a guy that's a physical freak, sometimes those guys can come in and perform right away. These smaller, younger guys need to learn how to use their hands and how to kind of get open and get off the block and get away from the press coverage before they really start turning into productive players, and that usually takes a little bit.
The final position player, the skill position player to go off the board, the 32nd pick of the draft, the New England Patriots take the Arizona State wide receiver, N'Keal Harry. Tell me the wide receiver the New England Patriots have developed.
All right, I'll agree with you there. But to me, this guy just wound up in the best spot of anybody to be a productive wide receiver as a rookie, right? Like if I'm drafting any of these rookie offensive players in the first round, to me, he's the one that I want the most exposure to because
I would agree with you on that.
Because New England, just their wide receivers are just so weak right now. I mean, we don't know if Josh Gordon's going to come back. We don't know how that thing's going to work out. I mean, they just picked up Demaryius Thomas. Like, people are acting like, oh, man, they got Demaryius Thomas. Like, you don't have Demaryius Thomas from 10 years ago. You have Demaryius Thomas 2019.
Yeah.
You have the guy who basically, came over because he was supposed to be the guy that helped save the banged-up Houston Texans wide receiver core. How'd that work out? I mean, guys like Kiki Kuti and other guys who they picked up off the, off of waiver wires were getting more snaps than him at the end of the season there, being more productive, getting more targets and coming down with more catches. So, I mean, I hope Demaryius Thomas isn't done. I always liked him. He's a hell of a player, but you're not getting peak Demaryius Thomas right now. So this kid has a chance to step in on day one and start right away.
That is true, too. But I worry about the way the New England Patriots, their track record of developing rookie wide receivers. You never really – the Malcolm Mitchells and so on and so forth. These guys never really do pop or hit. So I do worry about that. But the talent and, like you said, the opportunity is there. Other than that, really the best for fantasy purposes for this upcoming season, as we look through round one, Benny, is probably Kyler Murray.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be – listen, he's somebody who's going to get the yards with the run. And, I mean, Lamar Jackson kind of showed you how important it was to get yards on the ground with your legs. And he's somebody who could wind up throwing the ball a lot because if they're running that spread offense, you could see 35, 45 passes a game from him there. And especially if they're not that good and they're coming back in a lot of these games and, playing from behind. I mean, he's, again, I never reach for quarterback anyway. So to me, he's still somebody that –
oh, he'll be in your range then. He'll be in your range in the season long. He'll be a QB2. You can stash him, and then when it pops, you got a guy coming down the stretch and through the bye weeks that, you know what I'm saying, that can run for 70 yards a game, maybe give you a rushing touchdown, maybe give you a passing touchdown, and 200 yards throwing the football also. So the skill set says that he should be in the QB1 conversation at the end of 16 weeks.
Yeah, if I can get him in round 10, 12, 14, somewhere in there, that's usually where I start looking at quarterback after I have my skill guys all set up and my backup skill guys all set up.
Man, you wait for quarterback that long?
Oh, yeah. Well, again, I mean, we talked about this last year. Like last year, I walked away with Jameis Winston and Ryan Fitzpatrick as my quarterback twos who actually outplayed. I forget who I took first. Who was the guy I took first? I don't remember who the guy I took first was, but Trubisky. I had Trubisky, and then I had those two guys. Those are my quarterbacks in the Scott Fish Bowl in the deep league, and those were the guys that I was targeting in the regular season as well. I just feel like once you get past like quarterback 5 or 6, if you look at the top 12 quarterbacks every year, it's almost never the same, right? Like there's 4 or 5 guys that are always in the top 10, and then the other 6 guys in the top 10 are different every season depending on who gets injured, who gets the softer schedule and stuff like that. So I'm always looking to wait on quarterback and kind of grab guys at the end because I just had more success winning that way. Like I think the difference between quarterback 6 or 7 and quarterback 15 is a lot smaller than the difference between running back 6 or 7 and running back 15. So
I agree with you 100% on that one. Got to figure out, obviously, as we move through the course of the summer, who is going to be some of these sleeper quarterbacks that can break out, that you can get a value on, much like Matt Ryan was last year, much like Andrew Luck was last year, also coming back off that injury. Maybe it's Cam Newton coming back off injury. We've seen Cam perform as a top fantasy quarterback for many seasons, especially when he's healthy. Josh Rosen, what's the deal? This millennial society, millennials and stuff like that. And I hate to be like this anti-millennial guy, but obviously this morning reports came out that Josh Rosen is no longer following the Arizona Cardinals on Instagram.
I mean, that is what it is. The way they've kind of treated him since they came over is fine. People were talking about it last night, right? It's like, oh, everybody could, why would you take Daniel Jones? You could have traded into the second round and got Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen's game tape from last year was not good. Like they were comparing him to some of these quarterbacks when I was doing some research on these quarterbacks to see what the deal was with Daniel Jones. His game tape just wasn't really all that good. So I know it's like a small sample. I mean, basically at this point, somebody who liked him before the draft 2 years ago who didn't get to draft him is going to offer like a maybe a 4th round or 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick for him. But I think that's about the best that Arizona can hope for. Like all these people who are saying, oh, I'd rather have him than Daniel Jones, or I would have rather traded for him than Haskins or Murray. You're crazy. Like we've kind of seen what Rosen is, and it's not that great.
What I would do if I think teams that should go after Rosen, the Miami Dolphins should make a play for Josh Rosen because the Miami Dolphins are in full rebuild mode right now. Mm-hmm. Josh Rosen's best asset are his age and his rookie scale contract.
Yes.
And the fact that he's also already been in the NFL locker room. A team that's trying to rebuild like the Miami Dolphins, that's perfect for them. You get a cheap quarterback, you can draft and build around him and see if that's going to be your guy years later.
And I'm going to call it the Drew Brees factor when they got Phillip Rivers. He also has a chip on his shoulder because the team that he was on just went ahead and picked somebody over him, so this is a guy that's playing with a chip on his shoulder that really didn't get a great fair shake last year because let's face it, it's not like that offense had a lot of talent around it. So it wasn't really like, you saw him in a good situation with, good pieces where you could really say this is what he is. My problem with Rosen, Corey, you tell me if you think I'm wrong on this, is after kind of seeing him last year, you know, guys like Murray, guys like Haskins, even a guy like Daniel Jones, who I know a lot of people aren't, you know, enamored with. I feel like these guys have a higher ceiling than a guy like Rosen does. Like, to me, Rosen's ceiling is run-of-the-mill, you know, 8 to 15 kind of quarterback.
Is he a backup or a starter in the NFL?
He's definitely a backup. Like, that's what I want to say. Is like, he's definitely a backup. I think his ceiling, though, is not being a top quarterback. His ceiling is being a mediocre starting quarterback in this league. His ceiling, like his best case scenario, is mediocre starting quarterback in the league. But I do think worst case he's a backup, which is fine. But I mean, you know, first round draft pick for a backup. That's what the Giants just did with Daniel Jones here. You know what I mean?
Basically, you're right. I can agree with you on that one right there, Benny. The situation, listen, here's the thing. We saw Jared Goff transform with the right coaching. And Jared Goff was pitiful in his rookie season. Rosen didn't show no strides last year. But this look what Rosen had to deal with. First of all, he had his offensive coordinator was fired no sooner as they get out there. He gets a new offensive coordinator. The head coaching situation out there was dramatic, changing coaches and all of that stuff. So the kid went into a tough spot to begin with. So that's why we didn't see no growth. We saw growth from Jackson. We saw growth from Baker Mayfield, obviously, and so that those guys panned out. Rosen, not so much. But you look at the situation he was in, it was completely different. So there you go right there. I think, Mayfield did lose his OC too, right?
Yeah, but that was a positive for him, not a negative for him.
Exactly, because nobody likes Todd Haley.
Well, you know what? I mean, it was a positive for Rosen, too, because it wasn't Leftwich who came in.
Ryan Leftwich did a good job. He did a good job.
They started playing better. The problem is, and this is one of the problems with the rookie quarterback, too, is like you have a rookie quarterback. You need him in there for OTAs. You need him in there from the beginning on one track, teaching him what you want him to do. When you're changing your OC in the middle of the rookie year for a rookie quarterback, now you got somebody coming in who's asking him to, you know, do different things or act differently or read something differently or go through his progressions in a different way. You got to give these kids some kind of stability, right? Like, that's why I think it's good with a guy like Haskins with the spot that he landed in. You know, even a guy like Daniel Jones, even though he's not going to play right away because, you know, I mean, he's got to sit behind Eli Manning for 2 or 3 years. But at least he's in a place where there's a professional quarterback there who you can kind of see and learn from. Now, we don't know how that's going to work out. Like, is Eli Manning going to be the Brett Favre to his Aaron Rodgers? Or is Eli Manning going to be the Drew Bledsoe to his Tom Brady? You know what I mean? Is he gonna take him under his wing and show him what the deal is and, you know, and all that? Or
that Cutcliffe connection is probably strong enough to where Eli would be like, okay, you know what's the funny thing about it is I think Eli Manning is probably sitting somewhere like, I can't believe this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they really like me that much.
I mean, again, Eli lives in Hoboken, so he's not far from where I am right now. He's in between you and I at the moment.
I thought he moved recently.
Oh, he may have. I don't know. He used to live down in the T building, right down on the waterfront. He bought food every once in a while.
The neighbors, the people that lived in the building, his floor, he was like, "Y'all move," because he has the whole floor. And when he was living in Hoboken, the building he lived in, he had the entire floor.
I mean, you got money, you got to do something with it.
Can you imagine Eli's name when he come throw you $2 or $3 million? Be like, yo, go get yourself a place to live. I'm like, I'm out. Thank you, Eli.
I mean, I'm not gonna knock him. We actually met him once. Remember that he came to the studio when we were over at that place in New York that one time. Yeah,
I'm not an Eli Manning fan.
I'm not either. Honestly, I thought he was kind of like, again, he was kind of like just a little D-bag, like, you know.
What you expect Eli Manning to be.
Yeah, he is his persona. Like, his persona doesn't change. He had Eli Manning face on even when he was in the studio doing something, taking pictures there too.
What's interesting about it is, took a picture. Were you in that picture?
Yeah, it was me, you, and him.
Have you ever seen that picture?
No, I have not, because there was some promotional marketing in the background. Yeah,
he shut it down. He shut it down. Eli Manning more or less said that the picture had to be deleted, and it was because in the background of the picture was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers helmet.
That's what I was going to say. I remember them saying the story because they were like, oh, we're going to put it on the website. And I was like, yeah, why didn't you put the picture of us up on the website when Eli was here? and they said something about there was something about marketing or whatever with
Yep.
something in the background. Is that what it was? Because we had the Tampa Bay helmet up top up there.
And then what happened after that is that's when Nando went and bought the Jet and Giant helmet.
Well, either way, man, that's what Photoshop's for. You just make it a plain
Yeah,
white
exactly,
helmet.
but it's Eli Manning. If I'm not mistaken, those fellas, and shout out to them. I don't know what kind of job they did last night. I wasn't checking it out. If I'm not mistaken, Saquon may have been on with them last night. So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I'll go check it out a little bit later on. Don't you? So what else do we have? Benny.
What did they have? Emery up there doing it?
They had Emery, they had Blewett, Emery, Lisi, and Spitting Speeds.
Okay, it's a good crew. It's a bunch of our boys up there. Bunch of my
no doubt. It wasn't like I had a bad one last year, Benny.
Was it?
Yeah.
Those guys. I mean, a couple of those guys, they know their stuff, and they do a good job. I mean, I read Emery's stuff all the time. He's really good.
Oh yeah, Emery's one of the brightest dudes that there is. Emery's real good at what he does, also. But what I found out to be when we did that show last year, I think I may have had 13 beers. You know what I'm saying, right there in the studio. And by the end of the show, I was just like,
I remember that. I remember when you guys did that show. Is that the show when there was like 100 like people were coming into the studio and all that?
Girls was coming in the studio and all that.
That was crazy. I remember. I heard the stories about that too. That was a good
Those were some wild nights. You know what I'm saying? Those were some wild nights. And here's the thing: everybody's doing that now. You know what I'm saying? So I saw ESPN Cats was doing it last night. And I saw a couple of other everybody had some kind of live stream with cats sitting around drinking.
Oh yeah, Yahoo had one, CBS. I mean, obviously ABC had the coverage. Like, everybody's doing it. But honestly, that's the way it's supposed to be at the draft, right? Because there's one pick every 10 minutes. So if you don't have some game film, you don't have people around there kind of talking about it, it gets real boring real fast. So
the draft is a party. So listen, now that we have through the first round, we'll get through this weekend. That means we are officially in best ball season. You want to start getting your best ball strategies together, head on over to fantasyguru.com, the full season site, and hop in right there. I believe they said it's for the next couple of days, but beginning tomorrow, it's going to be 20% off with the promo code DRAFT. So we'll give you some information on that come Monday morning. Benny, let's get right into it for tonight right quick. Well, not for tonight, but for tonight and tomorrow. Tonight we got the Golden State Warriors and the Clippers. The Warriors are laying 10 in this one. 233 is the number. I've already said to you earlier that I am on the under in this game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the bet that I like the best in this game is actually the Warriors, right? The Warriors won. The one of the 3 games the Warriors won, the only one that wasn't by at least 10 points, they won by 8 points, one game. The other 2 games when they won, it was, like 18 and then like 25 or 27, something like that. So, I mean, I'm expecting them to close the series out here. They won both games that they played in LA already this series, which is funny that they actually lost 2 games at home and won both games in LA. So I have no problem with them closing it out in LA. I think they want to close it out in LA because I don't think they want to have to, keep going and go to a game 7 here before moving on to a series against the Rockets.
They got to get it done because Houston is resting and waiting and resting.
I mean, the longer you drag this out, the worse it's going to be. And, I think that they're just kind of come out there. They take care of their business. I think you're going to get full run or close to it from the starters because I don't think they want to, they want to even chance giving a lead up again here. So being on the Warriors minus 10 is probably the way I would go, but I don't know if I'm going to take it minus 10 tonight. But if I had the bet, that's the bet I think is the best.
Tomorrow night. What? No. Today? Tomorrow. Hey, tomorrow night. We have a game 7 with Denver and San Antonio. Getting the Spurs plus 5.5 in this one, Benny. Plus 190 on the money line, but you got them at plus 410 on the money line.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was your call yesterday, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So what is Denver to win?
Denver's minus 230.
All right, so here's the deal. I put 100 on them at that plus 410 for the series that you talked about, right? So if the Spurs win, I win $410. So if Denver is minus 230, that means I got to lay 230 to win 100, which would break me even with the 100 that I put on the Spurs right there. So that would give me plus 180. So I would win $180 if the Spurs win if I want to hedge off of it, by putting 230 on Denver.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's $100. I'm just going to let it ride. And if the Spurs win, I'll probably take the plus 410. And in game at some point, if I can get better than minus 230 on Denver, like if the Spurs go up 15-7 in the first quarter and Denver's even money, then maybe I'll throw some money on Denver side, and this way I'll, hedge myself. Like if I can get Denver at even money in the first or second quarter of that game, I'll probably throw 100 or 200 on them, so that no matter which way it goes, I pocket at least $200, whether win or lose.
Yep, there you go right there. That'll be the smart way to do it. And then tomorrow also game 1 of Raptors and 76ers. The Raptors laying 6 at home. 222 is the number. To me, that sounds like it's right on the number. I'm going to take Philadelphia in this game based on the history of Toronto in game 1s.
All right, hold on. 232 or 222?
222 and a half.
I'll take the over. I like the over in that
Really?
game.
You like the over in that one? Okay.
Yeah, because listen, even though Toronto's a pretty good defensive team, they play fast.
Yeah.
And Philly plays very fast. Like Philly was one of the top.
But Philadelphia also don't play no defense.
And that's the thing. So like this could easily be, again, 222 is you're talking like 110, 112, 110, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I could easily see either one or both of these teams scoring $120. So I think there's a little bit of juice on a little bit of value on that over there. So that's actually my favorite way to play this.
Yep, so there you go right there. So big piece of chicken. I got to give my big piece of chicken to fans of the New York Giants because y'all really showed up and showed out last night. A disgusting fan base, a disgusted fan base can be a disgusting fan base also, but a disgusted fan base, listen, it's tough. So condolences to New York Giants fans. Enjoy some big pieces of chicken this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm going to give mine to, Woody Johnson, the owner of the New York Jets. Because for my entire lifetime, we've kind of been the laughingstock with the Giants as the well-run and intelligent and, the smart organization in the New York area. After yesterday, there is no doubt in anybody's mind in the New York area who the intelligently run team is and who the people who don't know what the hell they're doing is. So Woody Johnson, if only by default, being the best owner in the New York area, big piece of chicken to you, buddy. I never thought I'd say it.
Shout out to my man, Woody Johnson. You also get a big piece of chicken. All right, Corey, Benny, y'all enjoy the weekend. Have a good time. Be back on Monday morning recapping the rest of the draft and looking forward to the second round of the NBA playoffs. We are out.